So we hit 100,000 subscribers, and I've been thinking about what the video is going to be. All right. It would have been cool if we got a Volk interview. It's pretty difficult to get one of those. So what I'm going to do is we're going to rank the best catchphrases that we use on this channel. All right. We're going to rank the most popular ones because it's hard to determine which one the best is. And I'm going to kind of go by popularity with some of these catchphrases that we use on this channel, but let's do it with a tier list, okay? We're going to get into this, the best catchphrases. I want to thank you guys for subscribing, and I want to thank you for supporting the channel. Let's get to the big two. The first one being big meaty hooks.
Big meaty hooks. Big meaty hooks. I'm throwing big meaty hooks all damn night. Throwing big meaty hooks.
For big meaty hooks, this was inspired by Josh Emmett's fighting style. Josh Emmett, he's got good boxing, but sometimes Josh Emmett just goes out there in the cage, he freaking puts his head down and winds up a big meaty hook, right? Boxing coaches will sometimes tell you, take some meat off of your punches, meaning make sure the technique's good. Don't just freaking cram yourself into them. Take the meat off of your punches. Make sure that you're applying the technique. And Josh Emmett's probably got great technique, but sometimes in a fight, he just fucking ducks his head down and goes over the top of the big meaty hook. Or, you know what? I'm putting it S tier because I forgot we're doing a tier list. We're doing S tier. All right, that's the highest tier. And of course, the other big one, Peaches and Creamville. Now, if there are some people in the comment section in this video that are going to be saying, how dare you possibly doubt Dustin, the diamond shines brightest when he's being tatted, son. At the end of the day, you guys need to understand that we're not in Peaches and Creamville. This is not a Rocky movie. It's not a Disney movie in the early 2000s where you've got Air Bud in the background, a golden retriever that knows how to play basketball, and you've got people that are learning how to fly. This is reality. If you're saying something that's delusional, or if you think that we're living in some alternate universe where we get the outcomes that we always want, where our fighters are always winning, where, you know, Volkanovski wins against Ilia Topuria or Volk becomes the GOAT, you know, the world is too cruel for that. We got to recognize that we're not in Peaches and Creamville. All right. Life ain't all peaches and cream, which is actually the inspiration for Peaches and Creamville. It ain't peaches and cream. All right. Things are harsh in our lives sometimes. And you got to snap out of, you know, this delusional mindset that you have, thinking that your favorite fighter is never going to get knocked out at the age of 35 when everyone else gets knocked out at the age of 35 if your favorite fighter is 155 pounds or below. So we're putting Peaches and Creamville in the S tier, all right? That's a very popular phrase on this channel. Big Bopper, dude. I'm just going to think about these off the top of my head. Big Bopper, this is not a very popular one, but I'm going to put Big Bopper in the C tier, you know? What is a Big Bopper? A Big Bopper is someone that... It's such a dumb phrase. It fucking makes no sense whatsoever. See, the ones that are the funniest are the ones that make no sense. I don't know who came up with this shit. I just think it's a perfect way to describe like the big oafs in the you know the guys that look, you know, not very athletic. They're very plotty and like usually heavyweights. You know, we'd call them big boppers on the feet. You know, he's kind of just a big bopper. He goes out there and whatever happens. He's just slugging, you know, doesn't make you think of the most technical fight. Okay. I swear I might even come up with a catchphrase in this video. Another Lucas Tracy catchphrase. What are some other Lucas Tracy catchphrases? Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. And Conor McGregor is going to be walking around with that crazy man look. Yeah. Yeah. And then he's going to get in the octagon and say, come here. It's not really a catchphrase, but we're going to put, oh yeah. It's sort of a McGregor and Volkanovski impression. Volkanovski when he was yelling, oh yeah, to Max Holloway. And Conor McGregor, it's just the McGregor fat cat mentality. He's literally living in Peaches and Creamville. And he's just freaking hyping himself up. So that one, that's a very popular one these days. I'm going to put that in the A tier. Let's think of some other catchphrases. A pipsqueak.
Case he wants to move up to heavyweight. Right? Chuck and Forrest Griffin used to walk around at 230.
Chuck and Forrest Griffin are pipsqueaks! Corey Sandhagen is a lean, wiry
I'm gonna be honest here. You kind of built like a pipsqueak.
Just definitely not my invention. I mean, people have been using that language for a while, but pipsqueak is just the perfect way to describe someone that's, a little bit scrawny. So if you're scrawny, you're a pipsqueak, okay? And that's the way we use it on this channel. So pipsqueak, I'm going to put that in the A tier. Definitely going to put it in the A tier. Crafty.
Jan Blachowicz, one of the craftiest crafters in the UFC. At 40 years old, the former champion is still making waves today. He's a big crafty crafter, who's also known for his fight day superstitions, like getting a big bowl of mac and cheese before heading to the arena. Blachowicz also stresses keeping calm on fight week. While other fighters are training and stressing about their upcoming fight, Jan can be seen enjoying himself as a tourist, heading to local hotspots like the Hoover Dam or even the local rodeo. One thing's for sure, he sure knows how to smell the roses. Now, despite no longer being in his prime, given that he's about as flat-footed as you could possibly get, moving around like an absolute tortoise, Blachowicz has more than a couple of tricks up his sleeve. And if there's anything he's been able to maintain, it's that legendary Polish power. Once again, his weapons may not look all fancy, but they're incredibly effective, like his famous lead kick to the body, or a big ugly low kick, maybe just a simple jab, and some sneaky combinations on the feet that'll make you scratch your head wondering how the old man covered the distance so quickly.
All right, crafty vet, or just crafty in general. Not really a phrase, but just another word. One of my favorite words, that's going to be A tier. That's up there with the most popular. Big Ugly. Big Ugly, we've talked about this before. Now, this is, again, a lot of these are in my best styles video, like all the MMA styles. But the Big Ugly basically is to describe fighters that, they're kind of plotty with their footwork. They kind of plot around and they kind of drag their feet, and they're not that athletic. They have like a hunchback of Notre Dame, and they've got a couple of basic ugly techniques that work. Like there's nothing ugly about a fucking leg kick or a roundhouse kick. They're not actually ugly techniques. It's just that it's not a spinning wheel kick. It's not a crescent kick. It's not a question mark kick. Right? It's not a spinning back kick. It's not like, a slick uppercut or whatever. It's just a freaking regular ugly kick to the fucking calf. Okay? And it works. Right? It works. Jan Blachowicz has this style down to a T. And Blachowicz is one of the best strikers in UFC history. I mean, Blachowicz is one of the best heavier weight class strikers ever. But he's not going to throw a spinning back fist or back kick. He's going to throw just a big ugly low kick and a big ugly jab. And they've got power, they've got pop, they've got decent speed on them, but you're never going to see him try to throw anything other than those basic techniques. Wobblestone, cobblestone knees. Attacking the cobbly hobblestone knees of Kamaru Usman. Wobblestone, cobblestone knees. This is actually a catchphrase that I made around the Usman and Leon Edwards 2 fight. Everyone was always talking about how Kamaru Usman had bad knees. He had told Joe Rogan that he has to walk down the stairs backwards and how he can't run and it hurts when he's walking around even on grass. So, what sounds unstable? What sounds old and rickety? Right? I'm thinking of old, rickety knees of Kamaru Usman. They're wobbly and they're cobbly, and it's like he's walking around on cobblestones. You got to install cobblestones on those knees because they're not sturdy, they're not strong. So wobblestone, cobblestone knees is a really great phrase. I'm going to put that in the A tier, or the S tier. We're putting wobblestone, cobblestone knees in the S tier. Sweet pea special.
Man, Usyk's just an absolute killer, son. Man, Usyk's just so good at pick and rolling, so good at riding the jab, stepping under, pop shot, step off to the left, and a nice right hand to the body, and another right hand to the body for Usyk. I mean, left hand. I'm not a casual. There's a nice uppercut from Fury and a good jab behind it. And there's that sweet pea from Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury's path to victory here is to throw those uppercuts, rip to the body, and give him a taste of sweet peas down the middle. Just imagine what Marty Lou would tune these guys up. Marty Lou had the movement of Usyk, but the power of Fury, and the speed of Joshua, and the finesse of Themba.
Now, if you guys are ever listening to my Fight Companion live streams, sometimes I'll say, nice sweet pea special from this guy or from that guy, and what it refers to is a jab. boxer, the late Marty Lewis, used to eat a lot of sweet peas in the build-up to his fights. And he would always eat a steak. He would always have a baked potato. But he would always make sure that he had his old, reliable sweet peas. And he used to tell people that, yeah, you can have all the technique in the world. You can have the power. You can have the speed. You can have the footwork. You got to have a good old, reliable jab, right? The jab is kind of like the sweet peas. You got to eat it to just kind of have a well-rounded meal. And he swore by it. So when he was sparring, you would have people... Oh, man, dude, this is... I'm just thinking of that funny wobblestone, cobblestone knees phrase. But when he was sparring, people knew this. People would yell, yeah, give him the sweet pea. Give him the sweet pea. And Marty Lewis would give him the sweet pea special. He'd jab him right down the middle. And so essentially, whenever I say that, I'm talking about a jab. That guy, he gave him the sweet pea special right down the middle. No, reliable. And the jab is very reliable. So, yeah, I'm going to put sweet pea special. It's an underrated one. One of my favorites. I'm going to put that in the C tier. All right? It's very underrated. It's not so popular, so it can't be higher, but I'm going to put that in the C tier. The outside foot battle.
He can either keep doing what he's doing and trying to become a better kickboxer with Dewey Cooper, all right? Or he can try to work on his head movement with the local PI coach, which is just going to add a small little fraction to his game. It won't make any bit of a difference. Or Marvin Vettori can get serious and he can stop training jiu-jitsu, he could stop training boxing, and he could work on one thing, and that's going chin first, straight right hands, shoving people into the fence. No one would stop Marvin Vettori if that was his game plan. No one. Stop going out there and being all technical and floating around on the outside and trying to put his foot on the outside of his opponent's foot, and maybe he can sneak in a right hand. No sneaking anything in. Just fucking bummy ass right hands straight down the pipe, moving forward nonstop, eating tons of shots in order to gas your opponent out, all right?
The outside foot battle. Now, this is, it's not really my phrase. I mean, people have said this before a million times at MMA gyms, and coaches have said this to their fighters, and fighters have said this in breaking down their opponents, their future opponents. They'll say, I'm really going to try to win the outside foot battle. There's always a fight to win the outside foot battle, because if you win the outside foot battle, if you have your foot on the outside of your opponent's foot, on the outside of their outer foot, then that gives you an advantage. And so I use this term to describe fighters that are caught up in like the really technical game, right? Sometimes it could be a cope for a fighter's non-aggressive style, right? If a fighter sort of has like a bit of a boring style on the feet and they're throwing low output, you can say they're focusing on winning that outside foot battle. So the outside foot battle, that's definitely a good one. I'm going to put this in the B tier. This is a solid catchphrase on this channel. Impose your will. The first time I think I heard this in an MMA setting, and I've probably heard this plenty of times, but the first time I remember hearing it was when Anthony Smith said, imposing my will. I'm going to impose my will. And I just think it's a really good way to describe imposing what you want to do against your opponent in MMA. It's very basic, right? You want to go out there and out-grapple your opponent. You have to march forward. You have to close the distance, bite down on the mouthpiece, and fucking take the fight to him. You have to be the one that's being offensive. So imposing your will is either you being offensive, moving forward, trying to get the fight to a certain position, actively trying to bring the fight somewhere, or it's you fighting with a very concrete plan, right? It could be you want to be a counter striker. So it should be evident that you go into a fight and you're looking to counter. When your opponent throws, you counter, right? Or you try to when you can. So it doesn't always mean that you have to be an aggressive fighter. It just means that you have okay, there's a plan, and it's pretty evident to people that are watching the fight that this guy is trying to do something in order to win. It is the opposite of just going out there and whatever happens, happens, right? So that's got to be A tier. Imposing your will, or maybe S tier. Let's put it in the S tier. Earning their freedom.
I feel awesome because that was a fight that I think it was exciting, especially for me. Because
Freedom! Freedom! Could be heard from miles away as Marcin Tybura chanted on his way back to the locker room after defeating Tai Tuivasa, becoming the first
NPC Apex heavyweight to ever win a fight against a real, dangerous KO power heavyweight. Marcin Tybura earned his freedom tonight, and it is shocking. Many have tried. Marcin Tybura is the first NPC heavyweight to ever make it out the Apex. I think he's flying to Poland tonight. They've taken the battery out of him. He's no longer going to be walking out off of a conveyor belt. We've seen guys try to break out of the Apex a couple years ago when the UFC needed more heavyweights. In 2020, the promotion shut down. They needed more fighters on the roster. They created the NPC heavyweights. They created the battery packs. They marched them down on the conveyor belt. Okay, now this is basically the phrase to describe when an Apex heavyweight, some of the Apex heavyweights that kind of pop off of the conveyor belt, when they have a performance where they actually impose their will and they kind of show that, wait a second, he's not got the NPC style that we think. He's actually going after it. He's actually showing some grit, some emotion, some hustle. You can only see that from a real person. He's no longer an Apex heavyweight. He's no longer cryogenically frozen with the battery pack being popped into the back of him. Even if they get KO'd, all right? If they get into a scrap or they knock someone out, like Mick Parkin, for example. Mick Parkin had a bunch of slow performances. I said the Jets were rolling. The Jets were ready to leave to take him to Vegas so he can be cryogenically frozen, and he needed a big KO. And he needed that KO in order to stay in England, to keep his freedom. And he did. So now Mick Parkin is staying in England. He's living a real life, and he's not going to be sentenced to the Apex. So I'm going to put this one in the A tier, all right? This is a really solid one. It's not that popular, but it's a very solid one. So maybe I'll put it in the B tier since it's not that popular. What are you saying, man?
I know that there's a difference between training to kill and training to knock someone out, bro. Stop. Don't even mess around with me right now. That's one of the worst takes I've ever heard in my life. That's essentially someone saying something like, yeah, Mike Tyson would smoke DC. Listen, I get it, man. DC's a bad man. That's a bad man. But come on, dude. Mike Tyson was smoked that guy. There's a difference between DC fighting and MMA and Mike Tyson really slugging it out against the cans in the 90s.
Now, this is the catchphrase to describe the ultra hardcore wannabe fan, that if you say anything that's just remotely against the grain, then they're going to hit you with the, what are you saying, man? Like, for example, if you say that Jilton Almeida is a better grappler than Curtis Blades, they'll hit you with the, what are you saying, man? Curtis Blades used to fucking wrestle in college, man. Or if you say Justin Gaethje is not a great grappler in MMA, they'll say, what are you saying, man? This guy was a NCAA, collegiate champion. You get my point. The what are you saying, man? Surfer voice. This one's got to be in the A tier. Brothers that are basically saying things in the media like, brother, give Makhachev his respect. All right, the brothers. This is a phrase to describe Dagestani or Chechen or, I don't know, someone that just looks Dagestani or Chechen as well. I could even say Arman Sarikin. If they say things like, brother, what these guys saying, brother? If they sound like that, okay, and they're from that region of the world, and they shoot takedowns, or fuck it, they don't even need the takedowns. If they just sound like that, or they look like that, or they're from Dagestan, or they're from Chechnya, and they have that same sort of vibe, I guess, then yeah, that's one of the brothers. I'm gonna put that in the B tier. That's a very popular one. Smudge, the smudge style, right? Smudge grapplers. There's a photo of Mateusz Gamrot, who in my opinion is probably the numero uno smudge grappler that there is on the roster. And what do I mean by smudge? Well, think about, what does smudge even sound like? It sounds like, some gum stuck to the bottom of your shoe. It sounds like some shit that's been dried up on the fucking pavement. A smudge grappler is someone that takes someone down. They don't necessarily submit them. They don't necessarily get ground and pound, and they're not moving and transitioning into a more dominant position. They just get someone down and they freaking squeeze them on the ground, or squeeze them into the canvas, or squeeze them up against the fence and just kind of smudge them into the canvas or the fence. Hope that the referee doesn't step in and stop the fight. So they have this facial expression where they're really working hard to kind of throw the ref off their scent, right? so that the ref says, oh, that guy's fucking working his ass off to keep this position, man. This guy's working. If you're seeing Mateusz Gamrot hold RDA up against the fence, Mateusz Gamrot's gritting his teeth, and he's freaking pushing this dude into the fence with all his might. It's a man that's working, right? He's just smudging him up against the fence, though. That's all he's doing. It's just smudge. Kind of the same stuff you'd see. That's like some piece of gum on the sidewalk that's just smudged into the sidewalk. Someone freaking smudged it in when they stepped on it. That's basically that style of grappling. So I'm going to put that in the C tier. Lighter man skill. Lighter man skill is a phrase that we'll hear pretty often on this channel when we're talking about the speed and the skill advantage that a lighter fighter has against a heavier fighter when they move up a weight class, or just the skill advantage that fighters have in lighter weight classes over heavier weight classes. So let me just get this out of the way. This isn't to say that a 125er who's more skilled than a heavyweight beats a heavyweight. No, it just says that a 125er is probably more technical than a heavyweight. They're probably more skilled. They can probably do more techniques, and they can carry those techniques out more effortlessly because they're weighed down by gravity less. And they can't rely on their brute strength as much as heavier fighters to get submissions or to get KOs. So they have to work a little bit harder for them. They have to be a little bit more technical with their footwork and all that. And they're also faster, right? So when we talk about lighter man skill, it usually applies to a fighter that moves up one weight class. I don't think a 35er is going to beat a welterweight just with their skill advantage. No, it's too much of a weight jump. But when fighters move up one weight class, we usually see them do well immediately upon moving up. Or a fighter that loses a title fight, okay, can't become a champ in a lighter weight class. We usually think, maybe they'll be too small in this newer weight class when they move up, and they actually start dominating fighters that we've never seen get dominated before. It's more often the case that fighters, when they move up, have success. A lot of fighters that could not get ranked in their division, their original division, end up becoming ranked in a heavier weight class. And it's hard for fighters when they move down a weight class to win and beat the best. It's very rare where we see a fighter move down and have more success than they did in their original weight class. And it's very rare that a fighter moves up and have less success than they did in their original weight class. Lighter man skill, I'm going to put in the A tier. We're always talking about that. Density maxing. I may have actually come up with this. People were asking me a while ago, Lucas, what's your training program like or whatever? And I was like, I'm actually density maxing. I'm just trying to become as dense as possible. And Azamat Murzakanov was sort of an inspiration for this as well. Azamat Murzakanov is probably like the king of density maxing in the UFC. Density maxing could just be like, for example, if you don't really want to lose weight and you want to stay the same weight, but you want to change your body composition, you just have to kind of grow into the weight, but like lean out while gaining more muscle, more mass, and you kind of just gain density, or just all density. You have to just think dense. That's what density maxing is. And for that reason, it's not the most popular one on this channel, but I'm going to put it in the C tier. Density maxing is a pretty underrated Lucas Tracy phrase. Anyway, that is it for the catchphrases, guys. There's probably a dozen others, maybe even more, that I'm forgetting about, so maybe you guys can remind me in the comments. But yep, these are the catchphrases that I think are the best. These are the ones that I remember, and these are the ones that make this channel fun as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thank you again for all the support. Until next time.